Tonight on The Struggle, women have the support of Scott Morrison, kind of, protesting against climate change roadblocks, and Times TikToking on millennial relevance. Hello and welcome to a brand new season of The Struggle. I'm your new host, Sam. As part of our COVID-safe return to studio protocols, we've had to dispose of anything 2020 related, so that means no more isolation edition, no more Zoom loading screens, and no more Tavleen. Also, with Sam Armitage's departure from Sunrise earlier this month, we thought it was our duty to introduce another Sam to your screens, given just how underrepresented Sams are in the Australian TV landscape. Anyway, enough about Sams, let's talk about Scott. PM Morrison has been in the news recently for some rather tone-deaf comments he's made, both about the shocking allegations of Brittany Higgins being sexually assaulted and the protest which was sparked as a result.
We are here today for our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our granddaughters.
Now, it's no secret that much like a wombat, our empathy challenged Prime Minister loves digging himself holes. I mean, in a press conference last week when trying to express that Australia needs to do better by women, he also managed to be accused of weaponising sexual harassment complaint he brought up that was later revealed didn't even exist. This isn't the first time, however, Morrison has tried to hose down a situation and instead only fanned the flames.
But they know that, I don't hold a hose, mate, and I don't sit in the control room. No.
But ScoMo isn't the only Prime Minister who's struggled to find the right words over the years. Tony Abbott, can you believe we're starting to miss him? Tony Abbott has had his fair share of doozies too, having once remarked the Labor Party had caused a holocaust of job losses, perfectly encapsulating the historical truth that unemployment was the biggest tragedy of Nazi Germany. Or what about the time when discussing the death of a soldier, he offered this comforting pearl? Yikes! Glad to see the $190,000 the Morrison government spent on an empathy coach is really paying dividends. Well, it's pretty clear that some of our top politicians need a bit of help in the PR department, so here with some suggestions for the current PM is our influencer Natasha.
Thanks, Sam. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What is this drop-dead gorgeous yet shockingly humble Instagram influencer doing talking about federal politics? Well, sis, this is entirely up my alley. As an influencer, managing my image is my entire thing, so believe me when I tell you that Scott Morrison has a major image problem. I mean, in the past few weeks alone, his Attorney General was accused of rape, and Brittany Higgins has alleged being raped in Parliament House, raising broader concerns about a culture of misogyny and sexual harassment. So, what does our quick-thinking Prime Minister do? What genius response does the man behind this advertising campaign come up with? Well,
Jenny and I spoke last night, and she said to me, you have to think about this as a father first. What would you want to happen if it were our girls?
yeah, he had a chat with his wife. Not your best work, Scotty, but certainly not your worst either. Now, don't get me wrong, conversations with women are important, but the starting point shouldn't be a reminder that you too have daughters. Credit where credit's due though, this has been a major glow up for his wife Jenny. I mean, teaching ScoMo that women have feelings too, that's some top-notch work right there. So, with Jenny being the Prime Minister's new public image consultant, I have just a few suggestions to help her with her new role. Number one, remind him that even men who don't have daughters shouldn't be allowed to sexually assault women. Remember, Scotty, sexually assaulting women isn't just bad because you know another woman. Number two, talk to him about maybe doing something about this issue, rather than celebrating the fact that women can protest the issue without getting shot. Like, does he expect a thank you for not shooting us or something? Number three, get him a ring light. Look, Jenny, I know you love him, but sweetie, those puffy eyes need all of the help that they can get. Anyway, that's all from me now. I'm off to film a shoot for the hashtag Extinction Rebellion movement. Bye!
Right on, Natasha. Now, in sporting news, if you hadn't noticed, it's that time of the year again. somewhat packed stadiums, footy record sellers, drunk guys relieving themselves on trees as far as the eye can see. That's right, the AFL's back. After a long summer, Australia's favourite sport has finally returned, and I, for one, am pumped. Footy has brought us some of the most memorable moments in history. Who can forget this monster goal from Buddy Franklin, or this absolute screamer from Nick Natanui? Now, I'm not sure if you were able to tell the difference there, but those clips were actually made by our graphics department because we couldn't afford the rights to use actual AFL clips. Great stuff, guys! Here with his thoughts on the current AFL season is our sports reporter, Soraya Esmeralda Malachite.
Thanks, Sam. In the wake of the recent scandals at Parliament House, from the allegations against Christian Porter to Scott Morrison's ongoing display of his comprehensive understanding of systemic sexism, the most Australian of medicines has come to our rescue. Footy's back. Now, to distract us all from the crushing realities of endemic sexism within our Australian cultures, the local sporting media has been absorbed by the return of the AFL men's competition. Subsequently, the AFL women's competition, which has been running since January, has been relegated to secondary TV channels and smaller newspaper articles. Nonetheless, I for one am thrilled to no longer be distracted by suggestions that our Australian sporting culture in some way promotes sexist cultures or practices or beliefs. It's been a thrill to see Dustin Martin dishing out the don't argues like he's a federal politician confronted by a survivor of sexual abuse. And the only whistleblowing of any note has come from umpire Razor Ray Chamberlain on Sunday afternoons. Now, there are some radicals suggesting that our attitude towards sport and sports stars is symptomatic of the very same problem culture that has engulfed Parliament in recent weeks. But fortunately for us, our Australian sports stars are above those kinds of heinous activities that negatively impact women. In fact, this whole fiasco reminds me of a conversation I heard between Wayne Carey and Sam Newman, who were talking about Elijah Taylor and how he reminds them of Stephen Milne, who got his inspiration for footy from Gary Ablett Sr. Then there's Shannon Grant, Nick Stevens. Anyway, footy's all about the one percenters. Back to you, Sam.
Good to have you on the team, Soraya. Right then, it's time for a quick quarter-time break. Welcome back. With further easing of COVID restrictions in Victoria on Friday, heading back into the office is becoming a long-awaited reality for many Melburnians. It's crazy to think people might actually be looking forward to the prospect of finally getting back on a train, surrounded by hundreds of sweaty people. But don't get too excited just yet. Extinction Rebellion protests took to the city last week, with a demonstration striving to raise awareness about global warming and the imminent effects of climate inaction. From makeshift morgues to people covered head to toe in red, you'd be forgiven for thinking these macabre costumes were straight off the set of a zombie apocalypse movie. The protests also led to traffic chaos, with severe delays for motorists and public transport alike, which means that if you want that caramel-infused almond cappuccino, allow some extra time to hopscotch around the corpses. Let's cross now to our Neighbourhood Watch representative, Karen Kovech, to discuss the difficulties she's encountering on her daily commute.
Thank you, Sam. I would like to quickly correct you. I'm actually the president of the Neighbourhood Watch. I'm sure you'll make the necessary amendments to your notes for next week promptly. Anywho, moving now to me discussing the inconveniences I have been facing on my daily commute to work. Firstly, the cleanliness of public transport is less than ideal. The grime you are met with when you hesitantly step upon a tram, train or bus is simply revolting. I do not need to see the leftover remnants of some foul person's last meal. The sticky surfaces are also exceptionally unsavoury. I could discuss cleanliness, or a lack thereof, for an eternity, but I digress. Moving now to the major factor that has been contributing to my tedious trip to work, these Extinction Rebellion protests. I find the name rather ironic, as I believe I could become extinct in the time it is taking for me to get to work. The traffic that these protests are creating is simply unacceptable. As a frequent taker of public transport, I understand that traffic can be absolutely unfathomable at the best of times. Let alone when you add a protest into the mix that blocks off half of the city. These protests and the traffic that they are causing is simply non-tolerable and unacceptable, and I will not accept it.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. For years, baby boomers and millennials have been at each other's throats. Boomers blamed millennials for ruining the diamond industry, while millennials blamed boomers for ruining the economy, environment, and housing market. It was a peaceful coexistence, but then everything changed when Gen Z attacked.
Gen Zers are acting like they invented everything. You did not invent the middle part. You did not invent scrunchies. And why can I not wear skinny jeans anymore? I remember when they were...
Today I got Hufflepuff. Woohoo! Then I shut down my computer and go to bed. Good night, and I make sure to snuggle my Mickey Mouse Squishmallow. Okay, bye guys. Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
To cover this growing conflict, we crossed to our millennial correspondent, Emily.
Hi, welcome back to I'm a Millennial, Get Me Out of Here. And right now, I'm on the battlefield, witnessing the daily carnage. This war is getting out of hand. And the war I'm talking about is, of course, the cultural war between Generation Z and Millennials. And I have a confession to make. The thing is, I'm not actually a millennial. Technically, I'm part of Gen Z, but I don't know, I just always felt like I was born in the wrong generation. I always identified more with that millennial side part and skinny jeans and just being a scapegoat for all the older generations to blame their problems on. But now, thanks to TikTok, millennials are becoming the next boomers. And a warning, the footage you're about to see might be distressing for some viewers.
And I'm proud to be a millennial with my side part and skinny jeans.
And you didn't come up with a scrunchie either. We did. I've had this since 5th grade, and I actually wear it in my hair, not on my wrist.
Hi Tanya, so I noticed you're a little confused. That's just like a symptom of being old, it's fine.
So now, I'm abandoning my Hogwarts house obsession and saying goodbye to the avocado toast. I need to adapt in order to survive. So I've been taking TikTok classes. I've been brushing up on my slang. It's the base in your entire personality from where you were born. For me, no cap. No cap. No cap. I've even made a move to change my entire identity. But is this really necessary? Hasn't this conflict been blown out of proportion by media outlets and disgruntled millennials who've had to come to face their inevitable aging process by witnessing the dissolution of beloved trends, as well as unnecessarily condescending commentary from teenagers? But on the other hand, I do look better with the middle part.
Thanks, Emily. We're off to another quick break. Welcome back again. Moving on now, and let's take a look at reality TV and soap operas for a moment. Shows filled with ridiculously far-fetched storylines that often leave viewers questioning why on earth they're watching the impossibly improbable plot lines. You know those ones where sisters-in-law trade barbs in a she-said debate over small children's dresses? The same shows which have brothers falling out and giving each other the cold shoulder, all while the matriarch tries to salvage any skerrick of respect to the family in the eyes of their community. Throw in a reanimated corpse, recycled storylines, and a media commentator being fired for insensitive comments, and who knows, there might even be a clickbait article or two written about the whole shebang. But perhaps I'm being too cynical. After all, at the heart of these shows, there's always a story, whether it be heartbreak, redemption, or the age-old love story of a costumed Nazi running off with a legal eagle. Of course, things need to be kept interesting, so every so often there's a radical plot twist, like when the newlyweds up and leave the country, trading the high life for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rear backyard chooks. I, for one, think we need something to go with all this tea. Luckily, we've got our celebrity chef on standby, ready to whip up a storm. Take it away, Kirsten Gent.
Welcome to Kirsten's Kitchen. Unfortunately, you've just missed my demonstration on how to make the most lusciously light scones. But while they're firming up in the oven, I suppose I've got a bit of time to run you through another one of my favourite recipes. Now this is a new one actually. I've only finished developing it over the past few months and I've taken a lot of local inspiration. So here it is, my recipe for a vaccine rollout. Not to be confused with roll-ups, which in my opinion are more like chewing gum than any form of discernible food. But I'm going off on a tangent. Firstly, make sure you've stocked up on enough doses of the vaccine and where possible, grow your own locally. With any luck, CSL will be the medical equivalent of a kitchen garden program for Australia. Now, the next step is to measure out your ingredients carefully. Accidentally adding 5 times the amount of anything to a dish can cause a little bit of a foul aftertaste. In terms of the vaccine, well, you might want to think twice, thrice, even 5 times before quintupling the dosage. Before you proceed any further, make sure to refrigerate your vaccine. You can't let your tubes go tepid, otherwise you have to throw them out and start them all over again. Now, things don't always run smoothly, so let me give you a little troubleshooting tip. If your vaccine starts to curdle and is being linked to blood clots, don't jump to any rash conclusions, and do not abandon your recipe altogether. Well, that's my brief interlude. My scones are ready to be jammed and creamed. Happy vaccine making, everyone!
Thanks for the cooking tips, Kirsten. Over to Spring Street now, and Victorian politics is in a state of flux at the moment, with plenty of talk about certain individuals and the role they'll play in the future party leadership. Daniel Andrews has taken time off from Premier duties to recover from his injuries after a particularly nasty fall, leading to sympathy from even his staunchest critics. So while now's probably not the time to initiate political mudslinging, it seemingly is the time for rumblings within the Victorian Liberal Party, with opposition leader Michael O'Brien recently surviving an internal leadership challenge. Not only have the Libs been dealing with inter-party quibbles, but it also appears as though political ghosts are beginning to seep back into state affairs. Former Prime Minister Peter Credlin, former Chief of Staff to Tony Abbott, is being urged by supporters to stick it to the Dan and challenge for Liberal leadership, while former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett is also rumoured to be looking to return to the Liberal fold in some capacity. I thought we were talking about contemporary politics. Anyway, here to hit us up with a dose of up-to-date info from around the globe is our fangirl, Sophia.
Thanks, Sam. Well, I was actually thinking of focusing on Asia for a moment, since there have been so many achievements within the Asian community as of late. First of all, I have got to talk about BTS and the Grammys. Yes, I know I'm obsessed, but duh, what's not to love about these boys? The South Korean septet became the first ever K-pop act to be nominated for a Grammy and perform with their very own stage at the prestigious awards. They're also the first Asian act to be nominated for the Best Pop Duo Group Performance category, first established in 2012. They looked so dashing and their performance was as explosive as dynamite. However, the Grammys' treatment of BTS was very poor, to say the least. Not only were they snubbed off the Grammy, even after the hit single Dynamite broke records upon records, but the Grammys also kept their performance to the very end, relentlessly hyping it up all night long in a desperate attempt to keep viewers tuned into the show. Anyway, that didn't work, because this ceremony averaged an abysmal 8.8 million views, by far the least watched telecast in Grammy history. Oh, and they also lost credibility, with many fans trending #scammies on Twitter. The lesson here, don't mess with the BTS army, we bite. In other news, Japan has also placed itself on the map again, this time through the hit manga and anime Attack on Titan. Part 1 of the final season just concluded, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you this is the best show that I've ever watched in my entire life. The plot is so good, and there are no plot holes, despite how complex it gets at times. It is truly the greatest story of all time. Oh, and the numbers agree too, with many Attack on Titan episodes ranking higher on IMDb than hit shows like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, and Chernobyl, with episode 54 of the anime, titled Hero, ranking at number 1, making it the highest rated episode of anything in TV history. And with the final chapter of the manga coming out on April 9th, many hearts are bound to break, because there is no way the story's gonna have a happy ending. I just hope that Captain Levi can finally rest at the end of all this. Shorty really deserves it.
お前ら 図体ばかりでかくなりやがって。
Knowing Sayama though, the creator of the manga, yeah, it's very unlikely. I mean, the guy literally said that when he finishes the manga, he wants to open a spa with his readers' tears, so, you know.
僕は進撃の巨人が終わったら、夢がありまして。
Now, speaking of tears, there is something serious that needs to be addressed. It's great to see Asian pop culture gaining popularity and being at the forefront of the entertainment industry. And it's great to see that there are so many fans ready to eat it up and listen to hours upon hours of K-pop and binge watch anime and read manga till the sun comes out while munching on Korean fried chicken or ramen noodles. So it's rather concerning and very disappointing that those same fans who consume so much of Asian culture are completely complacent when it comes to the recent hate crimes against the Asian community. I mean, I've even seen people online with K-pop idols and anime characters as their profile pictures being blatantly racist to Asians, silencing them when they're trying to share their story, or even fetishizing them in their culture. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who says the hypocrisy here. All I'm saying is, if you're gonna consume Asian content, the least you can f***ing do is be a decent human and respect Asians and their culture. Back to you, Sam.
Thanks, Sophia. Well, that brings this first show of the season to a close. Hopefully there's been something for everyone in this episode, whether you're a former JobKeeper, like getting into your news deeper, or simply a truth seeker. But until next week, the struggle, it's real.